أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي يا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك وآل بيتك المظلومين الغر الميامين المنتجبين. يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. قال الله العظيم في محكم كتابه الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ جاءتكم جنود فأرسلنا عليهم ريحا وجنودا لم تروها وكان الله بما تعملون بصيرا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. I tried to discuss the importance of revising and studying history for the past couple of months, couple of days. That the more you learn about the past, about people's experiences, and about the events that took place in the past, and the major events, the more you can become mature and the more you can try to fix your own problems for the present and build a better future for yourself. Also, this is with regards to do with history. When it comes to studying about personalities, reading about people, so firstly, you read about history, you study history, and then secondly, you study about people, historic figures. For example, at school, when you are learning science, for example, they teach you about people who made scientific discoveries. For example, Isaac Newton, the one who discovered gravity and then later on progressed to the science of physics, or the one who came up and who was the founder of the Peace Prize, Nobel, where he had made a mistake before. He discovered how to build and manufacture the dynamite, but then he made the Nobel Peace Prize. Usually, you learn a fewer things from these people. For example, Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison was the one who discovered the light bulb. And he made several experiments based on my knowledge. That probably he made 1,000 experiments until he figured out a way so that he could be able to make the light bulb, to find the balance between the light and the bulb so that it doesn't pop. So he just kept going until he figured out the way. So what do you learn from him? For example, you learn about success, how to become a successful person. You don't give up. When you have a goal, when you have an aim, when you want to achieve something, you just go until you find something, you figure something out. You don't give up, and you try to find out in a smart way. It's usually there's one piece of lesson and one aspect, or sometimes there's a couple of lessons and an aspect to learn, but it's usually limited. Now, there was some historic figures, people who became examples. Like, for example, the wife of the Pharaoh. Who was the Pharaoh? The Pharaoh. Pharaoh was the one who was an example of tyranny. He was a tyrant, an open tyrant, to the point where he claimed to be the God, where everyone has to worship him because he was just too powerful for himself. Not because he created anyone, no, it's just because I'm powerful than everyone, so everyone has to worship me. And if anyone chooses not to worship me, then they will be punished because I have to give them permission. The wife of Pharaoh, who was she? Her name was Asiya. She was the ones who opposed Pharaoh, who refused to acknowledge Pharaoh. And she believed in Allah, and she believed in the Prophet Musa alayhi salam. So Pharaoh didn't like that. He tried to prosecute her. He tried to force her not to believe. He tried torturing her, but nothing worked. Until he made his final attempt, and he killed her. So the Quran says about her, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ضرب الله مثلا للذين آمنوا امرأة فرعون. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives an example for the believers, the wife of the Pharaoh. ضرب الله مثلا للذين آمنوا امرأة فرعون إذ قالت رب ابن لي عندك بيتا في الجنة ونجني من فرعون وعمله ونجني من القوم الظالمين. Sometimes a person, they do things that they become examples for others. This was the wife of the Pharaoh, where she believed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions her in the Quran. Not just that she was a very good person. He mentioned her as an example for the believers, for the men and the women. There were people who were linked to the Ahlul Bayt. They were connected to the Ahlul Bayt. Do you know who the Ahlul Bayt are? They are the family of the Prophet. They were the top people who had the best of examples. If you want to talk about goodness, about rituals, about, for example, who is the best, you remember the Ahlul Bayt. The Ahlul Bayt, firstly, we learn about them. They are the top role models. For example, sometimes we might think, okay, what did Imam Hussein do exactly? Have you all heard about the story of Banu Israel? Banu Israel are the people of Prophet Musa, and they are mentioned in the Quran. Bani Israel, they had a very big issue with Pharaoh. Pharaoh was just torturing them and oppressing them, slaughtering their sons. So they were just having a very, very bad time and a harsh time with Pharaoh. So they had someone that came and he saved them. Who was that person? Prophet Musa. Prophet Musa saved these people from what? From someone like Pharaoh. Pharaoh who was a tyrant. For example, I just want to give you an example of who Pharaoh was. Imagine Saddam. Imagine if someone comes to you and says, Saddam has become the king over you right now. What's going to happen to you? You're just going to panic. You're just going to do prayers. Please, can someone help us? Please, You do dua for Allah to help you. And then someone comes and he saves you from him. What Imam Hussein did, he made the biggest sacrifices to save people from who? From someone like Yazid. And Imam Hussein became the example of how people can fight someone like a tyrant. If it wasn't for Imam Hussein, probably everyone would just worship every tyrant. They would just worship Yazid just like some people worshipped Fir'aun. And every person that would come after Yazid would just worship them, and we would just be humiliated and live the worst type of life. That's why Imam Hussein, for the believers, he holds such a great value. There were people that were connected to Imam Hussein. People that you wouldn't accept, you wouldn't expect. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends an army that you can't see them. وَجُنُودًا لَمْ تَرَوْهَا. You haven't seen them. Right? For example, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas and his brothers. Who was their father? Who's Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas's father? Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali alayhi salam. He learned a lot of things from his father, but he also had a mother. His mother was who? al-Banin. That was her name. Actually, her initial name was Fatima, but she had some certain qualities that she became an example. She wasn't related to the Ahlul Bayt, but she was like considered to be from the Ahlul Bayt. Like for example, if you've ever heard about the top companion, the top friend of the Prophet, his name was Salman. Salman, he wasn't related to the Prophet, but the Ahlul Bayt say about him that Salmanun minna, he's from us. So al-Banin, you read about these like historic and historian figures, Isaac Newton, or these people that made inventions, the ones I mentioned right now, Edison, and you learn a few things from them. And they are examples of success, for example. Okay? And you learn about them, and they can teach you things. But people like, for example, al-Banin salamullah alayha, she had certain qualities that she just rose, and she became example. For example, you know how when you go to a Husayniyya, there's always like, this is how I realize, you always find that person or a group of people that they are just servants, right? They make themselves servants, okay? Khuddam. And they're always doing something. They're always walking around trying to fix something, trying to do something. This is a very high level. And on the opposite side, sometimes, like for example, when we read about history, you've got people who make themselves servants, who always try to fix the things, who always try to help people and to serve people, but on the other side, you find people that always want to take from people. Yazid, for example, he wants to take your freedom. He wants you to serve him. He wants everything from you. Yazid and everyone that follows Yazid. There's a lot of people like Yazid. They just come to you and say, look, I want you to become my servant. I want everything from you. And if you refuse, I'll kill you. On the opposite side, believe it or not, you've got people like that, and you've got people that just make themselves as servants. But sometimes, some servants, they keep on serving, and they reach a point where they are ready to give the most precious things for themselves to give it for the service of others. Have you all heard about the story of when Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein and Fatima al-Zahra and Amir al-Mu'mineen, they had fasted for 3 days. For 3 days, they had fasted. And every day, every night when it was iftar time, a poor person would come and he would ask them on their door for food. So they decided to give him food. The next day, for example, someone who is an orphan, a yatim, he doesn't have parents, so he comes and he asks, and it's the second day, they haven't eaten anything for 2 days, they only drank water, right? They also give them their food. Something that is pressure for them, something that is dear for them, okay? And during iftar time, eating food is usually something that is dear for you, okay? And then the third day, a captive person comes, someone who is a prisoner. They also choose to give him. And then on top of all of that, you know what they say to them? It says in the Quran, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. And probably they didn't even say that to them. They say that we are actually, verily, surely, we're feeding you for God. And we don't want you to thank us. We don't want thank you from you. We are afraid from the day of judgment. And there are people that learn from the Ahlul Bayt. Al-Baneen salamullah alayha, she serves. When she gets married to Amir al-Mu'mineen, and she was, as from what I researched, she was only 17 years old. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he wasn't someone rich. In fact, he was prosecuted. She got married to Amir al-Mu'mineen at a time when there was these bad people. The first caliph and the second caliph, who were enemies to Amir al-Mu'mineen, who were trying to kill Amir al-Mu'mineen, who were trying to harm Amir al-Mu'mineen. So she didn't get married to him because he was rich or he had things to give her. No, it was because he was a great person, a noble person. And he was someone zahid. He didn't want this world. And then when she came to his house, she had so much humbleness. Her name was what? I said in the beginning, her name was Fatima. But she told Amir al-Mu'mineen, don't call me Fatima. You know why? Because she wants to serve Fatima al-Zahra. She doesn't want Amir al-Mu'mineen to call her Fatima because Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, when they hear Fatima, they would remember Fatima al-Zahra. So she gives out her own name for that sake, for the service, to serve. And then, you know how Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas salamullah alayh, when he reached the water, and he was so thirsty that his heart was like a scorching hot piece of metal, piece of iron. And yet he threw the water, he didn't drink it. Why? Because he has a priority. He has Imam Hussein. He wants to sacrifice for Imam Hussein. Al-Baneen salamullah alayha, she didn't keep any one of her kids, any one of her children for herself. She gave them out for Imam Hussein. And she doesn't, for example, have you heard of Al-Fadl al-Abbas? When he saw Imam Hussein, after he fell down, when he saw Imam Hussein, did he tell him that, Ya Abu Abdullah, I didn't drink water for you? Has anyone heard about this? No. He keeps it. He doesn't say anything. Al-Baneen, when Bishr, he comes and he wants to give out the news that Imam Hussein was killed. So Al-Baneen comes, she asks about Imam Hussein and says, what happened to Imam Hussein? So Bishr tells her, who are you? Who is this woman? So they say that she's al-Banin. So he knows that she had lost her sons. So he tells her, "Adamallah lak al-ajr." You've lost one of your sons. You've lost Abdullah. And she tells him that. What happened to Imam Hussein? Fida'an al-Hussein. They are sacrificed for Imam Hussein. What about Imam Hussein? And then he tells her that. What happened? Adamallah lak al-ajr. بِوَلَدِكِ عون بِوَلَدِكِ جعفر. Your son also got killed, Ja'far. You know, for a mother to hear news like this, it's very dear for her. Have you noticed the night of Fadl al-Abbas? Everyone's heart gets broken. Even if people that can't cry, they feel heartbroken. What does his own mother feel like? If our hearts gets broken, what about his own mother? So he's telling her that you also lost your son, Uthman, and you also lost your son, Abu al-Fadl Abbas. Our hearts gets broken. But she also asks about Imam Hussein. And then he tells her that Imam Hussein got killed. These are the people that are role models and that people we learn from them. And people who teach not only the good qualities, but the quality of to just keep it a secret. Like, yes, I should have done this. This was something that had to happen, and they don't go out loud. Just like Sayyidah Zainab, she also learns from Sayyidah Zainab. Did you know that Sayyidah Zainab lost 2 of her sons on the day of Ashura, as mentioned in history? But she doesn't mention them a lot. She cries for Imam Hussein, she cries for Ali Al-Akbar. This is like the top. You are a servant, you serve and you serve, and you also give something that is very dear for you. And of course, the Ahlul Bayt were the top, and then people would learn from them. Inshallah, we'll be one of the people who can learn and can get some of these qualities from them. We ask al-Banin, we ask Abu al-Fadl Abbas, we ask the Ahlul Bayt to help us gain some of their qualities. هذا والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.